The first game of the Ruben Amorim era has been gone, and for me, it was a disappointing draw. But of course, we'll talk about the nitty gritty, the positives, the negatives, all in today's video. Welcome back to the channel, guys. So, we played against Ipswich Town, as we know, and it was going to be a tough game, and it turned out to be like that. I mean, even though we had 72% possession in the game, it didn't mean anything because there wasn't any bravery, there wasn't any urgency, especially after we went ahead quite early in the game. And a very good goal at that, with Ahmad, doing so much work down the wing, beating two players, getting to the box, crossing the ball in, and Rashford tapping in at the near post. And it looked like a very good start. And I thought that from that moment onwards, we're going to build, we're going to move forward, we're actually going to start creating more chances, go at Ipswich Town and go and get as much goals as we can, which is probably what Ruben Amorim expected as well. But that wasn't the case. We seem to sit back, we seem to wait for opportunities to come to us rather than us creating our own. We did seem composed on the ball, we did seem comfortable, in possession, but we were playing more sideways in backwards passes rather than taking risks and going forward. And Amorim after the game was very, very clear on the fact that we need to be taking risks. We need to be doing everything we can to ensure that the tactics are 100% put out on the pitch in order for us to go and win games. But, we let Ipswich Town on us and they got their goal. It was a deflection off Mazraoui into the top corner. Not much Onana could do about it. But again, a very good goal by Omari Hutchinson. And from that point on, it seemed a bit like Erik ten Hag all over again. It seemed like Moyes, Van Gaal, Solskjaer, Mourinho, all of those coaches, all before, it seemed the same thing again, where there wasn't enough effort. There wasn't enough hard work being put in. There wasn't enough running. Amorim after the game said that we lacked physicality in that first half. And you could say that it's partly because of the likes of Eriksen was playing, Johnny Evans, their ages, Casemiro, not being dynamic enough, from the start of a game, which we should have been dynamic in midfield. But again, it's the first game. We know Amorim has a lot of work to do. We know that he has lots of players that, one, need to improve, and two, he needs to be changing players who are not good enough to play in his system. And he saw more out of those players or from those players in yesterday's game than what he ever will in any training session with these players. Amorim is very, very intense in the way he speaks, and he looked very frustrated on the touchline, especially when certain players were not in their correct positions, when there was a lack of running back, and he was very, very clear on what he wants from his team. And again, it's just the first game, so he knows himself there's a long road ahead. He knows that it's going to take more than just a couple weeks, a couple training sessions before we start seeing what he was producing at Sporting, which was not too long ago. So in terms of the players, for me, the only three standouts were, of course, Onana being man of the match. Lots of excellent saves. And in my opinion, there were 2 point-blank saves, which could easily be saves of the season. And if he doesn't make those saves, we probably lose that game against Ipswich Town, which again leaves us in a difficult position. So that's one of the reasons why I think it was a disappointing draw. The other player that I can say, again, had a good game was Mazraoui. He just keeps doing Mazraoui things, so smart on the ball, so intelligent in possession, out of possession. He played right centre back. This is a player who can play right back naturally, but left back as well. He ended up playing centre back, and under Ten Hag, he even played a game behind the striker as number 10. So he is a player that certainly will be playing more under Ruben Amorim. And of course, the other player that was standing out for me was Ahmad, of course, with what he did as a right wing back, which is not something or a position I would want to play him in. I think he should be higher up the pitch, maybe one of the 10s behind the striker, whether that be Rashford, whether that be Hoyland. He certainly should be higher up the pitch and being part of the attacking front three based on what he produces. So the rest of the players, in my opinion, there's much to be desired over there. Delo certainly did not seem as confident at left wing back. Johnny Evans was struggling playing in a back three, mainly because of his age, but it's not a position or a system that he's played throughout his entire career. You look at the likes of Garnacho, playing good between the lines, but again, not passing the ball when he should, quite greedy in that particular aspect. And if he's going to play as one of the tens behind the striker, he needs to be looking to provide more for his teammates rather than being greedy for goals himself. Rashford, again, other than the goal, a very quiet performance, should do more up front, should be running more, should be pressing more. But of course, he needs to be there for the goals as well. And again, he wasn't even there for that. I don't remember him taking a shot other than the goal that he scored. So that in itself is poor for any forward for that matter. Wayland coming on didn't fare any better. Xerxes certainly looked a bit lost and confused because of the positioning that he had. So there's lots of work for Ruben Amorim. The road ahead is long before we even start looking at having consistent good performances and start winning games. But again, we need to be winning games. We can't be dropping points in the Premier League. Our next game is Amorim's first game at Old Trafford, Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. Again, a game that we should realistically be winning, especially at home. So very interesting to see who Amorim will be starting in this game, because I do believe that from the game against Ipswich Town, he's definitely going to be making a few changes. Mainu is back from injury. Shaw returned to the team. Mount returned to the team. Ugarte didn't start, but when he came on, we seemed much more composed and energetic in midfield. He put Bruno next to him, and that certainly did look much better than having Casemiro and Eriksen, who doesn't have the legs to play as intense as Ruben Amorim wants. Shaw, coming in at left centre back again, gave us a much more stronger option there than a Johnny Evans. Did quite well in my opinion, but again, we'll have to do more from that position. And of course, when Martinez returns, surely he might end up playing left wing back for Ruben Amorim. But there are options. There is lots of time ahead, and we have to be patient. Things will change, but we need to give Ruben Amorim the time to actually exercise what he wants to practice for us as a club. He was very, very upset about the amount of interviews that he had to do, and he basically put it out there and said he doesn't want to do all these interviews. He wants to work with his players, and he spoke to the head of communications, and he told him that he wants to just work with his players, and he's spoken way more than what he ever did at Sporting in 4 years within 1 week at United already, which is good to see. A bit of bite from our manager, attacking the media that always seems to be pushing any Manchester United positivity into a negative stance. So we move forward to the next game. We move forward in the Amorim era. We'll definitely see what happens within the training sessions leading up to the game against Bodo Glimt. But there are positives. There are things that will be changing, and we do have to look forward to that because of how Ruben Amorim shows himself, and definitely already shows that he's very, very frustrated when we do not win. And that is a winning mentality that we've lacked at Manchester United. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like, let me know in the comment section what you thought of the game against Ipswich Town, and of course, who you think he should be playing from the start rather than who he has played already. Till we speak again soon, Red Devils, bye-bye. Thanks for watching. If you want more content on Manchester United, like, share and subscribe.